Herman, you were saying, let's not look at the promises.
Yeah, they are the same.
But being the same and all, why are
It goes. But
if Raila Karua sat and decided to come up with a manifesto and launch manifesto, and Ruto Gachagua did the same and they launched, okay, they are promising the same thing. It means that they understand that these are the same problems that Kenyans have. If we don't look at them, then how do we know that what they're going to do?
Why would you look at them and I'm telling you they're the same? They're talking about the same things.
But the approach is
nothing. There's nothing like approach. It boils down to which pair can implement anything they are saying. And they're talking about good things. Because I've also told you, none of them is talking about something that can transform this country. None. You talk about textile.
Are you saying the one industry per county cannot transform the country?
You are talking about industrialization, textile industry, but you are mum on second-hand clothes. You are mum on dumping. You cannot face China. None of these people can face China and tell them, look, like what Trump did. Why does none of them come and say, when I take over, hii takataka kutoka China mnaona imejaa Nairobi hamtaona hata moja. That's the only way you can create a base for industries. Do they have that courage? None of them has the courage. News came when I was talking about housing. Housing will remain just talk unless you take radical moves. You make radical moves and radical proposals. I was saying, for example, a house in Nairobi is relatively more expensive than a house in Tokyo. In New York. Why? Because we factor the price of land in the cost of the house in Nairobi. Land is given for development, it's not for sale. If you fail to develop, it reverts to the allocating authority. That's the only way you can keep prices of houses within the range that is manageable. So who is coming up with those policy that kind of thinking amount? There is nothing. So let's not waste our time. Let's just give one of these people on the basis of what we think they can do. You see, if you can talk about housing without telling me.
So the only choice we have is we must elect someone.
Select a team. You can. The lesser devil, if you ask.
That's the thing. So we must pick someone.
We have to. We have no choice but to pick somebody.
So we have just to go for the lesser devil.
And now we are going for the lesser devil between Raila and Ruto. Many people will agree that Raila would be the lesser devil.
Okay.
Yes.
So we are safe in neither of the two hands.
No, you are safe in a devil whose teeth perhaps may not bite as much.
Will still die.
Then also, Latif, if you have not understood me, there are two ways of looking at our problems and at development, if you wish, and progress. One is it with what I call the normal range, what a normal eye would see, where the bar is there. That if somebody takes over and takes this country to the next level and the bar goes higher, that is development, that is progress. Now, if you are looking at that way, then Raila is far ahead of Ruto. He can do a much better job. But I am saying our bar is too low, my friend. We need to put it high. We need to put this country in the league of first world countries in 10, 15 years. I'm not seeing the thinking coming from anybody among this standing. You see the difference now?
Yeah.
Within what is normal, that we say this development, hii ni maendeleo, wakulima watapata hii na hii, the Raila team can achieve that much better than the Ruto team.
But listen to what Gerald is saying and giving himself as an example and saying, look, in the world in which I operate in, the answers that I've been looking for over time and what I'm being told today, these are things that resonate with me directly and for many other people in the country. Is that not so?
He didn't say that.
Gerald.
Just a moment.
I mean, he gave the example of access to credit.
That's what I want to say.
And being a businessman in this country where access to credit is very difficult. And he says, look,
allow me a second.
This is what I have.
Allow me a second, because I listened for a long time. First of all, Latif was trying to drive Bitok to seeing that credit is not for Bitok. That credit they are talking about is for Mama Mboga. Bitok is not in that category of Mama Mboga. Okay? The second thing is that this credit has been available. These funds are there. So the question to ask, what is new? What is new? And I'm not seeing that new. Because we have all sorts of devolved funds and funds available. What is new this time? But the more critical question you must ask, 100 billion, if you look at the debt portfolio of even one bank, ask them how much money is it. So that 100 or 50 billion cannot be money that can cover Latif, Manyora, City, and Bitok. it is too little. But let's assume they could improve on it so that is enough. What then are you saying, Latif? If you open your mind and ask yourself, are we therefore seeing a situation where then you'll collapse the banks? Because if government can give credit, we extend from Mamamboga, now we get to Bitoka and Manyora. So we are locking out the banks as we know them. So banking now is being locked out of the Kenyan market. Fine, who is it financing? It's financing the small people like Bitoka and Manyora and Mamamboga. Now that you have locked them out, are you going to cater for the long-term financing that goes with investment, which banks will do? Because you kick them out. Because the moment you will deny them this segment, because you're almost getting where Moi had gotten the country before Kibaki. Because when government became the only borrower with all the interest rates, nobody else could borrow. Is that right? Credit wasn't available. Now you are creating a different but almost similar situation where you are saying government will give money to people so that people don't have to go to banks to borrow. You get it, because the moment you go beyond Mamamboka, you come to him and me, you are essentially saying now government will be the one giving us credit. That means you deny banks that segment, and the banks fall and they go out of Kenya.
Is that really
you are left
the
in a situation?
No,
you are left in a situation where
with
now,
the Youth Enterprise Development Fund, with the UWEZO Fund, with the Women's Fund,
Yes.
the money is channeled through banks.
Yes.
Yes. The money is in banks, it's channeled through banks.
Yes.
What the government is doing is offering the credit guarantee scheme.
Yes.
They've even launched another one in 2020.
Yes, yes.
A credit guarantee scheme.
Yes.
It's not necessarily locking the banks out of business. It is availing money to the banks for onward lending to the small business people. However, at a predetermined interest, and then there's a guarantee for the risk.
Then
It is
Latif,
dealing with the risk aspect of the bank.
Then a man called Latif Eric was not listening when Bitok was talking. You must be a very good listener. He said the reason why people can't access that credit is there are demands and conditions.
And I wanted to
So
question
now
him
listen.
on
So
that.
that means this new one will be minus that.
Well, I think Bitoka's still here.
I'm here.
So you are creating.
And I think
When you applied for this thing in 2015, Bitok,
Yes.
and tell us
I've
truthfully,
applied 4 times.
what were the conditions?
Here's the thing, and you see, it's sad because Manyora is getting a space to propagate 3 things: misinformation, propaganda, and hopelessness.
No.
That's what
Manyora
is done by many.
If you didn't get, because just a moment. You didn't get because there were conditions. Logically, it means this one will be given
Manyora,
without conditions.
Were you the one applying for the loan? It was me.
No,
Okay,
but
tell me why I did not get it.
But you have already told us there were conditions.
This is what I've said, and I'll repeat. And you know, first of all, let's start from where Manyora. Before I lose the trail of thought. When Manyora tells you that if the government disperses money to the people, is closing out banks, but he believes that giving out 6,000 through the same mechanism cannot close out banks, then there's a conflict of knowledge or lack of it. Now, this money thing about the reason why credit is not accessible are 2 things. The government borrowing module, it has continued to borrow locally when it should borrow less locally and more internationally. 2, the cost of credit is high. When you speak about the government coming in, the same thing. You are subsidizing Unga. Have you closed out millers? You're just simply saying, guys, you're milling your Mahindi at this price. We are giving you this money as government so that the people can access this cheaply. That's the same thing we're saying with credit. We have these enterprise funds that we've been looking at. The conditions for this has been obnoxious. In terms of what do you need, security from someone who is doing a startup is not available. So we are ensuring that the module of application for these loans should be more favorable to the people that we intend to get these loans. Unless you're intending another crowd to get the loan. But if you want the young people to access the loans, then you must ensure that it's flexible. For security reasons, this money, even money that the government disperses, the government does not pay contractors in the offices. You don't go to Treasury to pick your money. It's paid through banks. The same thing. We have the same mechanism for these loans. We ensure that these people can get cheap loans through the same mechanism of banks. Lower interest. The banks can access more funds from the government so they can continue to lend to the people at an affordable rate. This is what Manyora is not seeing. Now, I want to bring the conversation that Manyora is bringing about personalities and what you're choosing from. I'm very clear on what I'm choosing from. I'm choosing from ideas. Whether that idea makes sense to Manyora or doesn't, it makes sense to me. From my level, I'm not speaking about I'm not Mama Boga.
Right.
But I'm speaking for myself as a young businessman on what does this agenda mean for me. You know, and if Manyora wants us to take our politics to the bush where you say you just guys show up, line up on a place, Pangeni Mulolongo, we look at how you are looking, you're tall or short, or how you're appealing to us, then we vote for you. That's not where we want to take this country. Let's bring it down to the personalities. He has mentioned about he's talked about, and actually, Professor, I would expect you to have a better conversation, but we are here already. You've talked about William Ruto, the ticket of Kenya Kwanza, Rigathi Gachagua, and William Ruto. He said that it's a corrupt ticket, right? He said that Martha Karua and Raila Odinga seem to be more clean. Let's look at these two personalities. Raila Odinga has corruption scandals that have been accused against him. We're talking about the Dominion Land saga, or no, we talk about the Maize saga, we talk about the Triton saga, we talk about the Molasses saga, we talk about all these sagas that have been pinned on him. He has been accused of running a political laundry at Upper Hill, Capitol Hill. One night, Anne Waiguru was corrupt until he went to campaign for BBI. Then Raila Odinga came out and said, Mama ni Musafi. Junet came out and said, Mama ni Musafi. They defended her in parliament when she was being impeached. Look at this. The other day, Sonko, not very far from it, Martha Karua was shaking the hands of my Sonko, whom right now is going to the East African Court of Justice to defend himself against corruption allegations. He has exhausted all the means in this country. The Supreme Court has ruled against him. But he was with Uhuru Kenyatta in Githurai campaigning. He was with Martha Karua shaking hands. He was with Raila Odinga. Suddenly, overnight, this guy is clean. Talk about Martha Karua that he's speaking about this morning, that we want to bring, if there's something that MANYORA is big on, is PR and propaganda, painting these guys as angels. Martha Karua has been accused of several scandals. During Kibaki's time, why did she resign? Several issues in government. Talking about the BAT that she was trying to explain the other day, that these guys were supporting. How can a company that had issues, you remember that time,
did she
BAT
resign because of allegations
was very
of
legal issues. So if we are talking about allegations and accusations, then we must look at both sides. But MANYORA cannot convince us that the allegations on Kenya Kwanza, because these guys have not been charged in court. William Ruto, the other day, DPP, yesterday, actually, Nudin Haji said very clearly that William Ruto's name has never appeared in the Kimwarera Narrow Dam scandal that these guys have been peddling for the longest time. So if we want to move away from the issues and we start talking about innuendos, and that is the mediocrity that we're having in these conversations. We are moving away from the real issues that are affecting Kenyans. We're beginning to discuss personalities, discussing accusations on people.
Gerald, what are the
If
real
you want
issues?
to go there,
What are the real issues?
the real issues,
Yes.
yeah, the real issues. You know, where you sit, City Moga, you know what the real issues is. The cost of living, joblessness. Talking about business environment, we have seen many businesses taking flight from this country, going to other countries to invest. Those are the real issues. We are talking about debt. We are talking about corruption. Those are the real issues. But when MANYORA wants to reduce this conversation to saying, oh, how do you look like? How favorable do you think you look? How safe do you feel with you? We must discuss the real issues. For me, tell me how as a businessman I'm going to access credit. Tell me how as a university graduate I'm going to get employment.
So can we come back to the real issue? Because
Yes, let's get back to the real issue.
you're the one who's dragging us down this rabbit hole.
I'm not.
As we came to you, back to you from MANYORA, we asked, what is it that you face as a challenge in accessing credit from
I've
the
said it
Youth
very well.
Enterprise
I've been very
Development Fund, and how different is the Hustler Fund going to be?
Okay, this is what I've said. The old way on how it was structured, and this convention has been there. When you look at the audit reports on these funds, enterprise funds, the youth fund, and the women fund, when you look at the audit reports on those funds, first of all, it has been the process of dispersing them. It has never gone to the right people. It has gone to the wrong people. The same way with 30% tender opportunities for young people that we'll be saying, young people and women and people with disabilities. It has completely gone to people who have run proxies, companies that have been run through proxies. There are people sitting somewhere like you, Eric Latif, you are very okay, you are not disabled, but you have someone who is a proxy who is disabled, you register a company and you procure business at the expense of actually a properly disabled person who should get that. When you look at matters of credit, how many young people have been able to access credit? If I get the guy who runs that ministry right now, I would like him to lift his fingers and name them for me. They cannot do it. Thirdly, what is the procedure of accessing that fund? The bottleneck itself locks out the right people who are supposed to get that credit. Even as me, when you ask me for a title deed, where do I get a title deed when I'm starting a business?
You know, we've been here with the chairman of the Youth Enterprise Development Fund.
Yes.
And we asked him, what is the procedure for accessing these funds? He said, the youth are basically guaranteeing one another. The issue of bringing physical collateral does not exist in the Youth Enterprise Development Fund.
This thing is
Unless you applied for a different fund.
It's a Google search away on the requirements that you need to access that. And I'm speaking from experience. when you talk about even young people guaranteeing young
How
people,
much were you seeking? What kind of security did they
I was
ask you
actually
for?
seeking an LPO financing, and that LPO financing was an LPO that belonged to the government, specifically Madari Hospital at that time for the financing. And this is a government tender, a government LPO. Now, these guys asking for security in terms of a title deed or an equivalent asset. They're asking for guarantees. So how many people are willing to guarantee other people, and against what? Because all these young people don't have anything to guarantee you against.
An LPO financing presumes you already have the LPO.
Yes. You already have the LPO, you don't have the money. And
Yes.
you're
But
saying,
the LPO is usually the guarantee.
Indeed, yes.
saying, yes,
really
and that's
where
what
I'm
you're
going
saying.
with this.
And that's what they're telling you. You have the LPO, but what is your security? What's the guarantee that you're giving in? And if you go even to
That
that level,
security is not given in a physical thing. That is those things are guaranteed by banks and insurance companies.
Yes.
My friend.
and these
We
guys
do
asking for
business
title deed.
also.
So they're asking you for title deeds. Where do you get title deed from? Let's talk about guarantees. How
In
many
other words,
people-
if you have chosen to go the route that is crude, because the normal route in that process is insurance and banks, bank guarantees, insurance bonds, and so on kind of thing, which you get from insurance
There are
companies.
tools that the
So
bank
if you
will-
do not go that route, you think you don't want to bother, then you can bring collateral.
You can bring. If
Now,
I'm
talk about-
on the Youth Enterprise Fund website, and there's the LPO financing aspect, supporting young people to participate in government tenders. LPO financing, the loan is available to individuals, registered groups, partnerships, and companies owned and run by the youth. Youth can access up to 5 million shillings. The fund will finance 70% of the LPO amount. The loan attracts an interest of 15% after 90 days. A commission of 6.5% of the amount borrowed will be charged. The loan will be secured using the letter of undertaking, bank guarantees, and
Correct.
conventional security. Requirements: be registered with a relevant government body, a valid LPO from a qualifying agency, undertaking by the procuring entity to pay the tender proceeds in favor of youth enterprise, and the customer account details.
Simple.
So what is the process of getting a bank guarantee, for instance?
If you are a businessman, you must know it.
And I'm asking you, what do you need to do to get a bank
Then
guarantee?
you are doing the wrong
Actually,
thing.
you know, Gerald,
Titles don't come in, Jared. They don't.
Yeah, I was asking
They
for,
don't
title,
come in.
for
okay,
security.
you- I-
That's
wait,
not about the equivalent.
You know, Gerald
security.
is talking about his case. Maybe he was asked.
No,
But the truth, as he says, but the truth of the matter is it is not required.
it's not required.
The moment you have an LPO, your bank will be able to tell you
Yes.
what you need to do.
Yeah.
And actually, I tried that.
It is
That
always
was what I was
insurance
asked for. I
companies
was asked for
for the
security.
bond,
And
Yes.
I would want
the
to
bank for
Yes.
the guarantee,
Yes.
and there's in the work with the people who have given LPO, they guarantee payments and they guarantee which banks the money will come from, and the payment will be made.
And
I
the
think
entity that
we-
you
we-
have.
But you can
We'd
choose
want-
to ignore that facility and say, I want to finance my own business.
And I'd want to get testimonies. I don't know. You guys, you operate from this place every single day. And I don't know from the time that you were the CEO of Enterprise Fund, I don't know how many testimonies you got from people who have been able to benefit from this fund. And I would be very interested to, even at this moment, since you're going to open up the conversation for callers to come in, I'll be very interested to get evidence from young people who have been able to access these funds, and at which procedure, how easy it was, and through who and who. I would like you to ask that question. Let's get it straight.
Those questions have been
get
asked
numbers,
many
yes.
times by the various entities that are required to do that. The Auditor General's Office, parliamentarians, the board itself of the Youth Enterprise Development Fund, and the others. None of them has come and said that this fund is not benefiting the youth. Otherwise, there would have been a very strong recommendation that there is a corruption issue here, that let's close this fund.
That
That
shows
tells you that there are people who are benefiting. I am not discounting, and I personally also believe that there are people who have played the game, played the system, and gone to the Youth Enterprise Development Fund to acquire finances when the beneficial owner of that company is not a youth.
Let
Definitely.
me say something.
Before
Let me say
Manyora,
something.
I
Just
remember
quickly.
almost 2 weeks ago, I was listening to you guys, and City Muga was reading out an article on the dailies about an audit on the Youth Enterprise Fund of money that was disbursed that cannot be traced to any youth account, only be traced to any account, and that was an audit query. Now, from that backdrop, you tell me, from that backdrop, that money has been claimed to have been disbursed,
Was it
but this
It was
money,
education.
It was the
No,
education.
no. The education was last week. There was an issue on the fund.
No, just go on. Yes.
So against that backdrop, you are telling the same guys that you should be holding responsible for these funds to tell you whether you'd have been benefiting or not. I'm telling you, give me testimonies of young people. who have
So
said
what
these funds.
safeguards then do we have in the proposal by Kenya Kwanza that all this 500 billion shilling money that will be going to various groups, farmers, youth, hustlers and all, is actually going to be disbursed properly, accountably?
Two
What
things.
safeguards do
Two
they
things that I think they've spoken very strongly about it, and I have heard the Deputy President speaking about it, reforming those funds. He has spoken about it several times, that they have become avenues of corruption and leaking out money, government money, to people who are not supposed to be getting it. Reforming that fund in itself is a key to ensuring that. Secondly, is ensuring that how easily can people access this, taking it down to the people. Why do I need to come to Nairobi to CBD to apply for these funds? How can ensure that these funds are taken down to the people in different counties and also taking it down even to the district level? So one, first of all, is reforming it to ensure that it gets to it, the policies around it itself safeguards it against misuse and abuse. Secondly, is ensuring that it's taken down to the people that really need it. So it's all about reform. The money is there. But the question is it being used for the right purposes? The distribution mechanism, is it fair to the people that deserve to use this credit? Because if it is not, then it's unnecessary. It's like you telling me you put a cup of coffee on that side through this glass. I can see it, but I cannot pick it. And you're telling me, guys, you're seeing the money is there. That glass is there. Why are you not taking the tea? Why don't you put your chai?
Latif, I wanted to say this.
So we're seeing a glass, there's a glass ceiling, we're seeing the money.
Gerald has just been
But they don't
brought
give
a cup of tea.
You can see where the problem.
At least I can
you
access
can
it.
now see where the problem is.
He could see the tea.
You can see this so-called hustler fund and the rest. Two things come out clearly. One, it is most likely it's just a campaign gimmick. Because if it is not, then the second thing must be addressed: the ignorance, as ably demonstrated here by
Whose ignorance?
the people. If they don't know that these funds are there, and yet they are not reaching people, and they don't know that these funds don't have the conditionality they are thinking. They don't even know that these funds have been devolved. They are right to the villages.
Okay.
And yet the absorption is wanting. And yet the impact is not evident. So that's why you must begin. But again, more critically, if I was reading him, he has a point that this time it can succeed. But the success will be depending more on the people determined to make it succeed than anything on the ground in terms of structures and all. It is the people determined. So it takes us back up where we are saying where this country is and the problems that need to be fixed in this country must take us to the question of who among the choices we have can help us sort out this problem. Because it's a problem of corruption. You have said the reason why young people are not getting this is about corruption. It's about integrity. It's about impunity.
So he's not corrupt.
And now, when you ask that question, you must sneak in the Mother Karua or Raila, but you can even see yourself, you are forcing it. Because it's not in a teleza, it's like you put oil with water. You know? It's easy to
not
say
telling
something
us
about
it's not
Raila.
corrupt.
It's
It's
easy
not
to say
corrupt.
something about Mother Karua. But when you talk about Gachagua, we are talking about things that are there on the table. These are things that have been tabled in the courts, and the cases are going on. We talk about William Ruto. There are many issues that have been taken. He has been to court not once, not twice, not 3 times. He has been found guilty on those things. You know the Muteshi land? He was found guilty for grabbing somebody's land during the clashes, during the post-election violence, and he was asked to return the land to Muteshi and pay a fine of 5 million shillings. For him, we have tangible evidence. But that's not where we are going. We are only saying, generally speaking, you look at Raila and look at Ruto, and unless something is blurring your vision, you say, okay, I'm not saying Raila is a god, okay? But comparatively, surely, there can be no comparison between Raila and the Ruto in terms of integrity, in terms of forthrightness, in terms of the ability to stand for the people and work for the people and think about the country and put the country first. But both of them are good gentlemen. They are good Kenyans.
You know, one of the things that I've always found puzzling about this discussion.
City.
Yes.
So we take a break.
Yeah, let's take a break.
Okay. Let's take this break. Take a look at the weather and traffic. The conversation continues. We are having a slight technical issue with our phone line. So please put your comments on our social media, SpiceFM KE, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, or what's the other one? YouTube. Okay. Between Kenya Kwanza and Azimio, in whose hands are you safe, and what are you using to make your decision? What are you using as a yardstick to make a decision? Is it the promises, the campaign promises? Is it the integrity, the personal integrity of the persons? Is it the track record of the individuals? What are you using to make your determination? Elections bila noma means that we go into this election, it doesn't matter whether it's Kenya Kwanza, whether it's Azimio, whether it's Mwaure Waihika or Professor George Ojakoya, whoever you choose as your president or MP or senator or governor or MCA, it's your choice, and your neighbor also has a right to make their own choice.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
We are talking about interrogating the choice that we are about to make in 18 days, looking at the major coalitions, the Kenya Kwanza coalition, the Azimio la Umoja coalition. Herman MANYORA says, okay, if you look at the promises, then there's nothing that distinguishes the two camps. Then now go into the personalities, and what then you look at is the probability of them delivering on anything that they've said. Then in that case, then Herman, I'd say, well, we don't have a choice.
Actually,
We have the other two choices, probably. The new ones, the untried and untested.
Wajakoya and Mwaure.
Yes.
But we did start by saying that we the best from what we have. And that's how it is everywhere in the world. In a population of 50 million, Raila and Ruto cannot be the best we have. But it is the best
that's available.
available. I mean, they can't be the best. Absolutely not. Biden and Trump were not the best America could offer. But they are the ones who reached that far, that high. And Americans had to choose between these two old men.
I'm curious as to the choices then that remain for those who don't have any kind of allegiance to any of these two sides, because we must admit that there are some who are making this decision based on their allegiance alone. It doesn't matter what comes out of the mouths of these
Historical allegiance.
Yeah, they're going to vote for them regardless.
Yes.
But there are those who are caught in the balance, who for real want to be able to be convinced that their vote is going to translate into something better for them.
Yes.
Because
This
let's be
time
honest,
round.
This time round, it's not about who your allegiance is with. It's about how we're going to make it better in this country. How are you going to guarantee that your children are going to go to school? How are you going to guarantee that 3 square meals a day are on your table? How are you going to make sure that you walk into hospital and you get healthcare that you can afford? It has nothing to do with who is from. It has everything to do with who are you hedging your bets on. So what about those people who are hanging in that particular balance?
Those are
How
the
do
same.
they make a decision based on what we are being told today by either side?
Because the country is divided roughly into two. We have pro-Raila and pro-Ruto. They don't care whatever you say, there's nothing. And this is over 80% of the voters. Now, that small percentage of voters, the thinking voter, if you want to call them like that, are the people that things like debates, work for. They are the people who look at Muga and interrogate Muga as a person. They look at his past record. They look at Raila. And they are weighing the options. They are looking at the past of Ruto and the past of Raila and the achievements of Raila and Ruto. And they are then convinced after that search that I think I'll go with Ruto. Or I think I'll go with. So it comes back to what I'm saying. It's the same thing that, I don't know that this thing is okay.
It's fine.
It comes back to the same thing that ultimately and finally, between Raila and Ruto, who do I see as being able to carry my aspirations, to put food on the table for Kenyans, to ensure Kenyan children get some form of good education? That's how it's nothing. It has nothing to do with any of these programs they are saying. At the top, in terms of what you are considering, is the sort of person you believe can do that. You see, it's not these things they are talking about. The sort of person first. And because, Latif, The biggest challenge we have in this country is corruption, theft of public resources. Without these resources, anything you want to do will not be done. So it gets back to what MANYORA has been saying this morning. Who do you think can deal with that corruption? Without dealing
In
with
whose
corruption.
hands did corruption thrive?
Yes, that's what you also want to look at.
Okay, so then the choices we have are Professor George Ojakoya and Mwaure Waihiga.
We have already said they are ruled themselves out by the law of natural selection.
No, I'm saying, if we're to strictly then look and follow your argument to its logical conclusion, has Raila been in government? Yes. Has Raila occupied an executive role in government? Yes. Has Karua been in government? Yes. Has she occupied an executive role in government?
Correct.
Similar to
William
Ruto.
Similar
Okay.
to Gachagua Sadio.
Was there corruption during their time in government?
Correct. Yes, there was.
Was there increase or decrease in corruption? There was increase. Okay. So then if corruption has thrived when these people have been in positions of authority, what guarantee do we have
Again,
it's going to be different,
again, you are
that they can
missing,
fight corruption
again,
if
you
they
are
didn't?
again, you are missing the point. We have said none of these people is as white as snow. Though Raila says it's as white as snow. None of them is as white as snow. Again, going back to the choice we have between Raila and Ruth. That's what you have now. You don't have Wajakoya and Ruth. Those ones are not on the choice.
They are
not on
the
the
choice.
ballot.
They are
They're
on
not
the ballot.
In America, there will be, if it is America, people without nature do not appear on the ballot in the sense that they just appear on a few states ballots. It's not like here you appear in everywhere. You just choose a few states and you appear testing your popularity. So the people on the ballot were Biden and
In Kenya,
despite there having been many other candidates.
in Kenya,
So
the
in Kenya
four
we
are
are
on
saying
the ballot.
no.
There's 18 days. There's no reason at all why today Herman Manyora cannot even just think and listen to what he is saying and change his own mind and vote for Mwaure Waihiga.
That will be good.
No reason at all.
And there are many people who
Unless
will vote
he's
for Mwaure.
saying that he is beholden to Raila.
There are many people who will vote for Mwaure. There are many people who will vote for Jakoya, including yours truly. But my vote is not enough to take him to the league of those competing for the presidency. So we are left again with Raila and Ruto. And once more, the question comes. They have been in the government. We know them. Who can we trust? Despite all the shortcomings both of them would have. What can we live with? It's a question of something you can live with. It's not a question of an angel.
It's a tragedy, though, that our elections have come to that, what we can put up with, as opposed to what we can hope for.
Or even
what
demand.
or even believe in.
Yeah.
Because in reality, this undecided vote that the pollsters keep referring to, if you look at it, it's a large number.
It is a large number.
It's
Mount Kenya.
yes, it's not something you can wish away. And even if you look county by county, it's a very significant number.
Correct.
And for the first time in a very long time, we are clear about who the tiebreakers will be. Is this undecided group?
Yes.
Because if they move to one side, clear as
person
daylight,
wins.
the person wins.
And that's why it goes back to the individuals. And in this case, in my thinking, from my own assessment, it is the people of Mount Kenya who not only have the bulk of the undecided, but who will actually decide this election. And they have to choose between Martha Karua. Once again, about individuals, the people who will decide this election are the people of Mount Kenya. And they're having to look at Martha Karua and Rigathi Gachagua and making the choice on the basis between Martha Karua and Rigathi Gachagua. Who would the community trust to be their future leader after Uhuru? Who can they sell to the Kenyan public after Raila or after Ruto to get votes? It's simple. It gets back to the individual. So the people who will decide this election are people from Mount Kenya. And they are having to choose between Martha Karua and Rigathi Gachagua. And they are having to choose on the basis of who can be the next community leader, of who they can sell to the rest of the country to become president after Raila or Ruto. And you can see again, the choice for them is also as simple as it is for the rest of the country.
Herman, it is simple for you.
Do you think it's as easy as that?
I think it is.
Gerald.
Actually, I don't know who Herman speaks for. The more I listen to him, the more I get lost. I don't know who he speaks for. When
We
he
shall find
says that those are, and I mean, for me, I still insist that a man speaks from a point of hopelessness. Some of us, we want to see an hopeful nation where we can discuss ideas and not personalities. We can look forward to a country where something can speak to us more than people. That I can listen to Herman Manyora and not look at Herman Manyora, but look at the ideas that he's giving on running a nation. Because it's not about the 2 people, it's not about the 4 people. I still insist that, Herman, I want to look forward to a day I can listen to you and listen to what you're saying and not look at you as a person. And that is where I insist we take our politics to. Because as Herman has said, I mean, the pool is dirty. The fish there, they're muddy. But you're looking at the fish and saying which one has a better chance of giving us some nutrition, some level of nutrition in terms of the ideas. So I still insist, if we have to move forward as this country, then we must go back to interrogating the ideas. And that is where Herman doesn't want to go. He doesn't want to go there.
But Gerald, the truth of the matter is that our politics, much as we like to talk about the ideas and what has been put across, our political parties are parties that are owned by individuals. I mean, let's just start there. So even when you're talking about ideas, where do the ideas fit in? We're trying to fit them in, and we should try to fit them in. But you give the example of America, parties matter. So whereas here we vote for individuals, there they vote for parties. That's where the difference comes in. So the idea is actually nestled in the party. This party represents this. This other party represents this.
But
so long as individuals hold the helm, unfortunately, we have to interrogate individuals.
And that's exactly what I'm saying is we must take away the administration of a nation and the running of this nation away from individuals and look at it in a better spectrum of ideas. In Kenya, we don't have parties that stand for anything. That is here, they stand for, you come, you want to use it as a vehicle, you cross over. Jubilee, it was fitted as a party that was going to outlive the political scene and all that. Today, Jubilee is a former image of itself. Jubilee is stuck in a village. It cannot even move. It doesn't have tires in a gearbox. Imewekwa juu ya mawe. And that is a party that we said we're going to drive the vision of this country. Look at ODM. It doesn't represent anything at all. And this is my position actually about parties.
You do know that people will disagree with you on that ODM issue because so long as there's a party, call it whatever, and it has people, believe me, the people who are in that party believe that party stands for something.
And those are the people who are in that party. And for me, is what I'm advocating.
The other observers.
Yes, I mean, I'm not in that party. So I'm even new. You'll tell me, if I ask you what does ODM stand for, you don't have any explanation around it. And by the way, Kenyan politics needs to move away from parties. And that is why for me, I celebrate the rights of independence.
Not parties.
Yes, and that's why there are people I suppose who are running on independent tickets.
Gerald, what does UDA stand for then?
And that's why I've not spoken for any party. Have you heard me speaking about UDA?
No. I've asked you a very specific question. What does UDA stand for?
And as I've said, parties in Kenya don't stand for anything consistent. What they stand for today is not what they stand for tomorrow.
Actually, they stand for the same thing. As Herman said, listen to what they tell you. They are all regurgitating the same thing. You look at manifestos. You know, I have to admit, the UDA manifesto on health, you get the impression they listened to health practitioners because it makes a lot more sense than the Azimio one. But
even
that having been said,
even on education as well, in actually almost all sectors, it almost speaks to the issues of those people.
now, Gerald,
I'm speaking about the manifesto. I'm not speaking about a party. I'm speaking about the manifesto. I'm speaking about the plan. I'm speaking about the plan. You want to take me to speak about the party? I'm speaking about the plan. I'm speaking about the manifesto.
City wanted to give you just one banana. You're taking the entire bunch.
no, the guy won't take the whole farm.
Muga, I wanted to correct you a bit.
I'm happy because he's reading from a point of objectivity. He has looked at what manifestos and he's being very honest. And your place in heaven will have Wi-Fi and some socket for charging your phone because you're being honest. You have looked at these manifestos and you become very objective.
Muga, I wanted to correct you a bit.
Please, Herman, correct me.
Whereas it is entirely true that these Western democracies have well-established parties that stand for things, it is not entirely true that you can run an election without a personality at the center of that election.
I agree.
Yeah, so people matter. The people look at Trump and they look at the kind of person he is, and he excites the American public.
Herman, I agree
so
with you.
there is no. The British
completely.
have just replaced they're in the process of replacing their Boris Lessing, and this Kenyan is getting it. And
Boris Yeltsin.
so the idea is Muga and the rest. You will not run away from the person and the individual, what they stand for, the kind sort of history they have,
Yes.
that is something you are not going to escape at all. And back to the manifesto. I have looked at these so-called manifestos and plans. They are all the same. There is nothing. There is nothing new or different about them. Even giving 6,000 as opposed to the Hustler Nation giving the Hustler Fund. All these things, if you subject them to scrutiny, you get to find that they are wanting seriously. And that this country will be saved in only one way. Because I love this country. This country will be saved if we have a man or a woman in State House who sends a message from day one that it's not business as usual. The country is taking a different trajectory. From today onwards, please, steal public funds at your peril.
Na unaenda ndani.
Hakuna mtu ataiba.
Thank
So
you,
weka
gentlemen.
mtu kama mother mpatie justice.
Eric,
you, thank you,
And she
gentlemen.
says
Just
6 months.
2 seconds.
We are
Martin.
concluding.
She says 6 months. Mtu akijua kesi itaisha na 6 months, they will
In
not.
2002 December, a man sitting on a wheelchair read a speech to the country and to the world.
On 30th of December.
And he said it will not be business as usual.
Yes.
When I've sworn in office. What happened? Thank you very much for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation, the
Business
situation.
more than
today.
usual.